welcome to Volume 2 of Cannabis Week, brought to you by the Canadian Securities Exchange. We're going to get into this conversation with Jamie Pearson. She's the CEO of Bhang Inc, and she is joining us from Billings, Montana. So talk to us a little bit about how you've adapted to this work from home COVID situation right now.
It's actually been really easy because Bhang is, we mostly all of us work remotely because we've got, our CMO is based out of Marin County in the Bay Area. Our global chief or global director of marketing is based out of Calabasas. Our head of sales is down in THC sales. He's down in San Diego. And then our head of CBD sales is up in Sacramento. So basically we all try to get together once every quarter. And I'm usually just everywhere, from Toronto to California to Miami, wherever we need to be, wherever we need Bhang to be, Jamie shows up. And so anyway.
It's the life of an entrepreneur.
Huh?
I said the life of an entrepreneur, right? Living out of a suitcase in hotel rooms.
Right. And so, yeah, this has been easy for us because we've been fairly virtual, and thank God for technology, but we've been utilizing Zoom calls and things of that nature for the last couple of years already.
Yeah.
And so this is old hat for us.
Awesome. Jamie, before we get into all of this, actually, what I should have started with was, why don't you give us an introduction to Bhang? Tell us a little bit about the company, what your focuses are. There might be some audience members that are not familiar with it, so why don't we start with that?
Okay. So Bhang is the OG brand. We definitely consider ourselves, the brand that's been around. We are getting into our 10th year of operation.
Yeah.
We were born in Oakland, California. We started, I think our story's unique in the sense that it wasn't a couple of guys who thought, oh, let's get rich in cannabis. It was a chocolatier who was used to putting gourmet, high-end quality chocolate in Whole Foods and Dean and DeLuca and things of that nature. He started with already knowing chocolate inside and out, and he put cannabis in chocolate. So when Bhang started, we were a CBD company from day one. We had Lloyd's of London product liability insurance. We were doing end-to-end every batch testing before testing was required, because we came out of that food space, that CPG space, and that was what we did. So it's a unique story in the sense that most cannabis companies are cannabis companies that develop products later. We started with a product that sold like crazy. We had nutritional fact panels on our bar. We could tell people on day one how many milligrams they were consuming with accurate dosing. And some companies are still struggling with that. We've been doing that for 10 years. So now what we evolved to from there is we have a line of CBD products. We imported the first $1 million of CBD into the United States in 2011.
You said CBD?
CPG, consumer packaged goods. Yeah.
Got it. I just wanted to clarify that because I wasn't sure. Are you hearing some feedback? Because I'm getting a little feedback when I talk. I'm not sure. You're not. Okay. Just making sure. So I'll let you continue. So
let the audience chime in and see if they're hearing anything. The sound is perfect on my end.
I was going to say there's a comment section. If there are any issues, feel free and let us know there. I've got my team on Slack here as well, so I'm sure if there was anything that they would kind of chime in there.
Yeah. So, that's where we started, was with a flagship gourmet chocolate bar. And we've since evolved into basically we're around 70 SKUs of CBD products. And we have 26 SKUs of chocolate bars, different flavors, different sizes. And, we're in 7 United States. We are the #1 and #2 chocolate and edible in Canada. So Bhang's doing very, very well.
Bhang chocolates. I know today we're going to be talking a lot of things chocolate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you guys, your team that you brought on was already making chocolates on the top sort of shelf level, and then decided to infuse them with cannabis. What was that conversation like at that time?
So our founder, Scott Van Rixel, he's the master chocolatier.
Okay.
He tells the story about being on a phone call with a food scientist, and he also had a gelato company, and he was having some issues with gelato. The food scientist took a bong hit in the background,
Okay.
And he said, "Are you doing what I think you're doing?" And he said, "Yeah, you should put that cannabis in your chocolate. It's legal here. In fact, you should come out here and see what's going on in the market." 'Cause Scott was in Albuquerque, New Mexico at the time. So he hopped on a plane, went out, saw people were medicating because at the time California was medical only, and they were buying brownies in Ziploc bags and with Sharpie written on them. And he realized people are using this as medicine for sleep and pain and the different things they use cannabis for, and thought, this is terrible. Coming from a, consumer packaged goods food background, he would tell you he was appalled, and he knew he could do better. And so he just set out to take one of his already amazing chocolate bars and started experimenting. One of the things he figured out was, back then there was no solventless extraction. There was no CO2 extraction. There was really not much extraction going on other than butane and, people out in the middle of their fields with 5-gallon buckets doing some crazy stuff. So the oil that he had access to was pretty, not something anyone would put in a vape pen today, right?
Yeah.
So now we can extract terpenes, we have distillate, we can do all of that. Knowing that 10 years ago, he developed the chocolate recipes so that they're really well suited to design and mask the flavor of cannabis. Now, some people like the flavor of cannabis in their edibles, but what Bhang's known for is that our chocolate tastes like chocolate and not like cannabis.
And how do you guys manage dosages when it comes to that? Because I've heard a lot of stuff where, you can't really manage the exact dosages that go into it. A 10 milligram might not necessarily be a 10 milligrams. Are you able to shed some light on that for us?
Yeah, no problem. I'll say that in the beginning, the first 7 or so years, it really boils down to being able to do accurate lab testing, and the labs have come a long way.
Yeah.
But it's essentially math. You're figuring out how many pounds of chocolate you have, how you get your cannabis oil. Some companies use, some companies are using dry flower or hash. Some companies are using cannabis oil. It depends on the recipe, and obviously speaking from Bhang's experience, we understood how if you were going to try to put, let's say, caramel flavoring in your bar and you wanted it to taste like caramel, you had to understand how much oil you need to put in a bar to get, whatever the sugar content is you want. When you're working with the nutritional fact panel and you're working backwards and you need it to be accurate, the guy we had developing our recipes was already an expert at all of that. So we have not had issues with accurate dosing. What we've had issues with is accurate lab testing. And now we're starting to see the labs are all being kind of held to similar standards. Yeah. And that's come a long way. But yeah, the bars are, we've always put a little QR code on our package that said, here is what's in these bars in this batch. So while if you're making a 500-pound batch, it might be difficult to nail that number exactly. Yeah. There's a margin of error that's acceptable in manufacturing practices, and we won't put it out there if it's not within that margin of error that's acceptable.
Got it. And I like the fact that you're putting it out there through a QR code in the consumer's hands, and they have easy access to it. They can go on it anytime and see that. I really appreciate you providing us with that little insight into how that goes. Obviously, from what I gathered, there's a lot of, in the beginning, trial and error, but as things have progressed, a lot of research and development that goes into it.
For sure. For sure.
Are Bhang chocolates and products available in Canada? There's someone that's asking.
Bhang chocolates are the #1 and #2 edible in the entire country. So the answer is yes.
Perfect.
They're not available in every single province, but they are available in most of the major provinces, and we're going to expand to all the rest of the provinces as manufacturing practices allow. Because one of the issues in Canada is we're making so much Bhang chocolate. Our JV, we have a joint venture up there. The JV is making so much Bhang chocolate that you really have to get to the place where before you add another market, you have to make sure you're meeting demand in the current market. So the JV started selling Bhang chocolate in February of this year with Cannabis 2.0, and we'll just keep adding provinces. The JV will, as soon as manufacturing allows.
So I would imagine a lot of the major provinces, the chocolates are available through the
Manitoba,
JV.
Saskatchewan, BC. We're in the big ones. Yeah.
Are they available through delivery during COVID right now, or?
Yes, and that really is based on how your particular province is
Province is set up.
managing all of that. Yeah, because it's all done
Got
through
it.
the province.
So, so they are delivered. They are available in all the major provinces. Some of the best sold products out there. What about in the States? Can you tell us what states you guys are in?
Yes, we're in California, New Mexico, Ohio, Michigan, Illinois, Florida. I'm missing one, Nevada. We're going to launch Nevada. I have to look at my board here behind me. Um, we're going to launch Nevada here. We just found out on May 5th that the dispensaries were open. We were ready to launch the day before our shelter in place hit the day before we were going to launch, and then they shut down all the dispensaries. So
Oh, wow.
we're really excited. We're going to launch Nevada here pretty soon.
Great. I look forward to that. And then what about Europe? I think you guys, you mentioned to me that you guys were in about 9 European countries.
Right,
Can you talk
right.
to us about that expansion and how
That's
that played out?
So far, that's exclusively with CBD products.
Okay.
But our Bang chocolate, dark and milk, is also in 9 European countries. Yeah, so we have 4 distribution relationships there that cover the UK, all 4 of the German-speaking countries, Italy, Spain, France, Poland. So yeah, it's been good. The demand for the products, and really it's for the brand, has been robust.
And I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but you mentioned you had 26 chocolate SKUs. Is that
We
correct?
do. We have
26 of
13
them.
flavors in 2 sizes.
Talk to us about those SKUs and what sort of brands, flavors, flavor profiles. Talk to us a little bit about those SKUs.
No problem. They all start with 3 bases. So we have a dark, a milk, and a white. So dark and milk are all that's available right now in Canada. But in most of the other places where we exist, we have 8 major flavors that most people want. And it's the dark, the milk. Our number 1 seller is the CBD THC 1-to-1 ratio dark bar with caramel flavoring.
Okay.
All of our additives to our bars are organic. So we have a blueberry bar, we have a caramel mocha bar that's a milk chocolate base and has espresso bits in it. Our cherries and cream bar is a milk chocolate base. It has organic cherries in it. That bar actually won the world's best edible in 2015 at the High Times Cannabis Cup in Jamaica. It's really good. I'm trying to think of we have a sugar-free bar, we have a peanut butter pretzel bar, we have Fire and Ice. So Fire is a dark bar that has spices and orange oil in it, and our ice bar is a milk bar with peppermint oil. So just lots of flavors to run the palate gamut. And then we have the 2 sizes. We have the main large size bar, and then we also have the single serving bar. So the thing about the single serving bar is it's kind of just a square, and it is put in 4 skewed into 4 pieces. And in California, those pieces are 2.5 milligrams, so it's a perfect microdose.
Okay, great. So it's like a trick-or-treat size.
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to ask you a little bit on the flip side. So you guys obviously are focused on making top quality chocolates that are infused. One thing I know about chocolate lovers is that they're very picky about the way the chocolate is sourced, where it's coming from, the quality of it, maybe a little bit above my knowledge. Can you talk to us about how you guys go about sourcing the best quality chocolates for your products?
Well, of course, some of that's proprietary, and our master chocolatier developed the recipes. And one of the things that he did is made sure that the blends of chocolate that we use, like our dark bar is 86% cacao. That we have gone to the painstaking process of making sure that the chocolate that we're putting out into the marketplace is the finest quality chocolate. It's sustainably sourced, so we're not out there, chopping down trees or harming the environment. We're trying to be, environmentally conscious and really a responsible company in that respect. So that's one of the things when you're putting high quality chocolate on the market, it's not just a matter that the chocolate's great. It's also how is that chocolate and cacao sourced.
Yeah.
So we've done both of those.
Great, and I imagine going back to your start as making chocolates before having them infused, you guys have probably had that all streamlined already and had a good sort of outlook on what needs to be done.
Absolutely. I think one of the one of the issues that kind of comes up in the cannabis industry over and over again is packaging. And we just went through a packaging refresh. And we're
I've
really
seen that. That was late last month, if I'm not wrong.
right. Right. And we were able, I mean, it's been a labor of love. We've been, working on this for a long time. But our biggest issue is that we wanted our packaging to be as environmentally friendly as possible while still being childproof. And, that's one of the things is when you buy a package in most states, it has to go out in an exit bag. There's way too much packaging
Yeah.
in cannabis. But at the same time, we understand why, if it's a chocolate bar, you don't want it to fall into the hands of a child. So we understand that having childproof packaging is necessary. And, and we're trying to walk that fine line between having, we obviously have to meet all of the requirements. But at the same time, we also would like to have the packaging be beautiful, be compelling. And, that's been one of the challenges. So part of why that labor of love took us so long is we wanted to have as great of a blend as we could have between, something that's a lot more eco-friendly than what we had before and, going into being compliant. And so I think as soon as we can see some of these packaging companies create affordable, because that's one of the bigger issues also, affordable packaging that's maybe biodegradable or made from water bottles or, sustainable in the sense that it comes from maybe bamboo or comes from hemp and isn't, killing trees or fossil fuel based. But right now we feel like we've got a good marriage. That was a goal for us.
No, that's great that you guys are already kind of expecting that and prepping for it, because waste when it comes to a lot of the cannabis products is a big topic right now, especially internally. A lot of companies are kind of racking their brains together to figure out a solution to that, because people are starting to notice that there's a lot of packaging that comes along with whether you're ordering it online or going into a dispensary to pick something up.
Yeah, I'm going to try to move here because I see that it's really dark. I'm going to see if I can get you a different angle. Is that better with that
Sure.
light?
The first one looked good too, but this is good. Do you want to maybe? Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
Your head's not cut off now.
Yeah.
So, Jamie, I want to talk a little bit more about this work from home period. You've mentioned at the beginning of our conversation that you guys have already been working from home, multi-state, managing different teams and whatnot. How is your role as the CEO, the honcho of a multi-state operator, and managing the teams, keeping team morale up? How has your style changed, and what have you kind of been doing to maintain those relationships?
It's a great question. I think one of the things I'm a big believer in, you do the hard work up front, right? So I came out of a real estate background, and I own a property management company. And when you're picking tenants, when you're kind of creating any relationship, you start by kind of laying out those expectations and those ground rules up front.
Yeah.
And I think what I did with Bhang is when I started hiring people, because I took over on December 4th as the CEO. Yeah. So obviously I haven't been the CEO but 6 months. Before that, I was working side by side with our founder, Scott Van Rixel, and he did all of the hiring. But when it really became my responsibility, a couple things that I did. One is I found a recruiter. Her name's Liz Gale, and she's with Gale Search Partners. She's out of the Bay Area. She and I really were like-minded in our approach to kind of the type of person that was a good cultural fit for Bhang. And my number one criteria, I believe everybody that comes to the table obviously should have their job skills on lock, right? But what's most important is that they have emotional intelligence. And so my requirement to her is, I don't care if they're the world's greatest salesperson or they're the world's greatest marketing person. What I care is that they're very competent at their job, but that they have a high degree of emotional intelligence. Because the thing I could tell you about cannabis is this is a very difficult industry. There's a lot of ups and downs. There's a lot of pressures. We don't get to do basic things like banking. You don't just get to run a business. You have to run a business swimming upstream, and doing everything is 10 times more difficult, takes twice as long or 5 times as long. And so knowing that, I know that I had to hire people that just had a high tolerance for emotional challenge. And I feel like I've been successful myself, Liz Gale, with her help, because I don't want to take responsibility for something that it wasn't just all me. She brought me really great candidates, and the team that the two of us assembled that exists today. Every single person on our team, came from Liz, and she really did a good job of weeding out the people that she just didn't really think had the chops. These people that I'm working with now, I love saying that our relationship is battle tested now, because COVID's been a unique battle, but the minute you have to go through something like this, it really gets you to understand who your team is.
Yeah.
And one of the things I like to do is give them their responsibility, lay my expectations out very clearly, lay out what the consequences are, either if you meet them or you don't meet them, the good consequences and the bad consequences. And, ultimately what I figured out is I've got this team that they don't need a ton of management. They are so competent and so emotionally intelligent. I couldn't speak highly enough about the team that we've assembled, because they've really just stepped it up and almost thrive on this. It's been kind of fun watching them blossom.
Spoken like a true leader, Jamie.
Oh, thank you.
And that kind of leads us into my next question, because I was going to say, you guys and Bhang as a team has managed to attract some top talent. Do you want to maybe talk to us about some of your team members? I'm sure they'd like to listen what you have to say about some of the guys that you've attracted to build the company and some of your products, brands.
I'm sure none of them are listening because they're all diligently working. I'm 100% sure none of them are on this call.
This is going to be taped. I'll send it to you once it's done, and you can feel free to share it with your team.
No, I love talking about my team. Yes, for sure. Obviously, it all started with our founder, Scott Van Rixel. We're all sitting here right now because of him, and the chocolate bar that he developed. And the one thing I will tell you is, we wouldn't still be here if we didn't have a 10-year history of putting really, really good products in people's hands, and people developing the habits and loving the brand and loving the chocolate itself. And so ultimately, you got to give highest props to Scott.
Yeah, and that long list of sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that long list of awards that you guys have accumulated over the years speaks to that. And I'm going to let you finish.
Yeah. Then I would say, our marketing and our sales team go hand in hand. And I think when you really look at what Bhang is, at the end of the day, we're a marketing company. We're a brand and IP company. We're in the process of evolving from that. And, back in the day, it made sense to do licensing model because, people were risking their liberty to be in the cannabis industry. And you also have to give high props to the trailblazers that were there before us that made all of this possible. There are people that are still rotting in jail right now because they got caught with a joint or something, or a roach even. And I've actually read some court cases. There's people in jail right now that never actually got caught with cannabis. Other people just ratted them out. And so we're sitting here making millions of dollars based on, other people having
off their backs,
blaze the trail, pun intended. And so, again, that's another point that I like to make when I'm speaking, and I want people to understand how important that is. And the other thing that segues right into that is we have a brand strategist in DJ Muggs of Cypress Hill, and I can't think of a better trailblazer. We've got, Bob Marley, we've got Cypress Hill, and we've got, bands out there that have very, very openly been cannabis activists, and Cypress Hill's one of them. They have some of their big songs or hits from the bong, and I want to get high, and
they've definitely been. I to be honest with you, I think if I have to go back, Cheech and Chong, and
for sure.
Cypress Hill.
Yeah, for sure.
The originals.
Yeah.
like you mentioned earlier, you guys are the OG brand, and it comes off in your chief brand strategist, some of your members that you guys have brought along to help promote those. I was going to get into that in a little bit.
But we'll go back to that because that's a whole other story.
I would love to talk to you a little bit more about that.
Muggs is on our team, and so going into it, I think about Scott for where Bhang started. We start with Scott, and then we go to kind of how did we all get here? We got here from all these people blazing a trail, and that definitely Muggs is in that spot. But then when I go into my hardcore team, the people that are making the magic happen every single day, I think sales and marketing go hand in hand. And our CMO is a woman named Sam Collins. If you've heard of 19 Crimes Wine, it's an Australian wine. That was her baby. It was one of the brands. She worked for Treasury Wine. And I use that as an example because I knew of 19 Crimes Wine before I met Sam. And it's that bottle that has the criminals on the front of it. And it has the Living Wine Label app where you can look through your phone at the wine bottle and the criminal comes to life and tells you his story. And I was like, wow, that's so cool.
Interesting.
And Sam's the one that developed all of that. And, you know, obviously she had a team too, but she was in charge of that brand and that was her baby. And award winning, has really, and she's the one that worked to do the brand refresh. And so some of the unique characteristics, I give lots of kudos to Sam in the brand refresh. But the person that in the marketing team that actually boots on the ground, makes everything happen, dots the I's, crosses the T's, and I would say is responsible for Bhang being the 100-pound gorilla in the room all the time, everywhere we go. That's Nicole Hanratty. So Sam and Nicole are the marketing department of Bhang, and they really make sure that all across the country and all across the world, everybody stay on brand. So the unique challenge that we have when I use like Hershey's or Coke as an example, they've developed the same thing we have. They have recipes, they have IP, they have their iconic bottle shape, or Hershey's has their label. And whether you buy a Hershey's bar in California or you buy it in Germany, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Because they can manufacture it in one spot, they can put the packaging together, they can get it out, and then really it's a marketing play. But it's a challenge in this industry because I can't cross borders. So everywhere Bhang exists, it's manufactured in the state where it exists or in the country where it exists and has to be packaged there. Outside of the hemp-derived CBD products, that's really true of the THC. So it gives us a little bit of a disadvantage in keeping that brand consistent and that product consistent. So you really have to be, you have to have quality control and you have to have brand control on lock. And Nicole and Sam are brilliant at that. And they are making sure that everybody across the world that is Bhang or that is selling Bhang stays lockstep with our brand story and style guide, and that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing as far as language is concerned. And then we have our sales team, and we've got, Heather Vigil, also, and all of these people, came from Liz. Actually, that's not true. Nicole came to me from an agency that we hired, and she worked as Bhang for that agency, and then she left the agency, and I found out that she was available. I was like, oh, I'm snapping her up.
Oh yeah, top talent is hard to find, and when you do
so
find good people like that, you snatch them up. I actually have had the pleasure of meeting Nicole. She was out in Vancouver for the Lift Expo in January of this year, just before, a few months before all of this happened. So for us, before all of this work and home stuff, like we finished up last year with NJ Biz. And then here on the West Coast, January, we had Lift. We had a mining focused conference in Vancouver. And then March, we went out to Toronto for the PDAC conference, which is one of the largest mining focused conferences out there. Yeah. And once we got back from PDAC, it was like, okay, office is shut down. Everybody's going to be working virtually, working from home. So yeah, a lot has changed since January. So when you mentioned Nicole, I had to think back. I'm like, wait, it was only this year, but it feels like so much time has passed.
Right. Yeah, cannabis operates in dog years, definitely. So I feel you.
Yeah. Now, there might be a lot of people, I think I know what the origin of the name Bhang is, but can you maybe talk to us about that for people that might not know?
Well, Bhang is a cannabis drink that is well known in India. Yeah. And that's the Indian, word for cannabis. So there's Bhang shops all over India, and they basically make this drink out of cannabis in India. Yeah. So I don't know why Scott chose to name his company Bhang. I know that wherever I go in the world when I'm speaking, I invariably have an Indian person come up to me and go, do you know what Bhang is? And so
yes,
the answer is yes, I do know what it is. I would like to go to India and try it.
Have you ever been?
Anyway, I've never been. It's a bucket list for me. Yeah.
I've been, but I've never tried Bhang. The drink.
Yeah, I read this book a long time ago called Shantaram, and it's one of my top 5 books I've ever read. And after reading Shantaram, like, I have to go to India.
It's definitely changed. It's interesting. If you can handle it, it's a great place to go visit. It might be a shock when it comes to
Yeah.
all of your senses when you're in a place like that. But once you get used to it and you put aside the usual stereotypical stuff, you actually learn to have a good time. And my son's actually he's 18 now, but he's been going every year since he's been 5. He actually goes without me too. So he loves it out there now. DJ Muggs and your brand Stoicism. How did that relationship come about?
Well, it's an easy one. He's my first cousin.
Oh, okay,
so
interesting.
I've grown up with him. But the truth is, Muggs and our relationship actually had nothing to do with Cypress Hill. We raised our kids together. Our daughters are pretty similar in age. We traveled together. But most importantly, for about the last 18 years, we've been investing in real estate together. And so we've had a relationship that had nothing to do with him being a DJ, a producer, or in Cypress Hill. We're just cousins, best friends, all of that. About 6 years ago, we bought a farm together, and we were growing cannabis in Northern California. We developed a couple brands ourselves, and before we did the Bang deal. And so we kind of got into the industry together. My dad's been growing cannabis for 55 years and has, he's not been a big grower. He's only had like 4 plants, but I've always had cannabis in my world, in my life. And obviously having Muggs, in Cypress Hill, when I was in law school in 1991 or 1993, whatever it was, Muggs was on Saturday Night Live and lit a joint on stage, so that was back when I was in college. Cannabis has just been ubiquitous in my life forever. And so, for him, it's been not a big deal. It's been what his life has been about. So it was kind of, once it went legal, it was a natural evolution for us to really talk about, okay, well, we've done this business together. We made a lot of money in real estate. We've been very successful in that world. And when it really looked like it was time for him to jump into the cannabis world, he's like, well, I'm not going to do it with anyone but you.
And it's such a natural fit for someone like him.
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting.
So we've learned a lot along the way, owning a grow and coming in and doing a brand. But I actually wasn't the person that brought Muggs to Bang. It was actually Scott. So Scott and, I found Bang. Muggs and I came, we met with Scott and Richard, that they're the co-founders. And we decided that we were going to pursue potentially doing a deal. Muggs had to go talk to the rest of the band. Scott and Muggs developed the products that we came up with, and they're awesome. They're really representative. The band didn't just want to slap their name on a product and be like, oh yay, Cypress Hill's got their name on somebody else's vape cartridge. You can see B-Real's been out there with Dr. Green Thumb. Sen's out there. He has his own brand. Everybody's doing their own thing, and those guys have always been very respectful of one another. And they've been doing this together 30 years or longer. So, their relationships are they're individuals, and they also have this relationship as a band. They're like a family, So he went and checked with the band. Yes, we all decided to go forward. We put the products together. And really what happened is Scott and Muggs became the guys that developed the products together. And then they, ran them through the band and made sure the band was okay with it. And so they developed a relationship through that process. So then when it was time to really look at, are we going to take this relationship to the next level? Muggs and I have always kept our relationship just personal, friends, cousins, family, all of that. So I was working for Bang at the time, and I probably wouldn't have asked him to come in just to keep that, distance there. But, Scott asked him, he said yes. Of course, I'm thrilled. I love working with him. He's probably one of the smartest people I've ever met. Like, he's brilliant. And the stuff that he's come to the table with has been I feel really blessed to be able to work with him every day.
I get it. I can tell just how genuine your messages from it. I'm smirking because I'm getting messages. The CSE listing team loves Cypress Hill. So I'm getting a lot of messages from the guys about bucket hats and Dr. Green Thumb. And
is that Barrington?
Barrington? Yeah, the Barrington's in the mix. He's actually watching live as well. So
Okay.
Barrington has been one of our co-hosts for the CSE Cannabis Week interviews. So
Yeah.
Barrington did a couple of interviews this week. Today is my turn. My
Yeah.
colleague Anna will be speaking to Arash and
Oh,
Nani from
yeah, I
Private
saw
Placements
Anna,
later. So
Santa Monica. She's a
that's right.
hoot.
You guys met at the ArcView show,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And then Richard Carlton, that's my homie. I love him.
Richard
You
is
guys have a
everyone's
great
homie.
team. Yeah.
You know what? We're definitely blessed to have such a diverse team, but also equally like-minded, where we all come together. You know, whether it's Richard or it's someone like myself, we can still kind of have those conversations and learn off each other, which is the most important. Just like how you had mentioned, you know, that I think the word you used was emotional stability.
Intelligence.
Emotional
Yes.
intelligence. I love that word. I'm
Yes.
going to be using it from now on and trying to integrate into my stuff.
Well, Daniel Cohen wrote a book about it that I recommend you read because it's, you know, what I would tell you is that, you know, there's another book, you know, I was an English teacher for a long time, so I'm a big reader. Howard Gardner wrote a book about, you know, multiple intelligences. And there's, you know, obviously there are people like Beethoven that could sit down to a keyboard and immediately knew how to play the piano. No one had to teach him. He just had it, right? And there's people that have kinesthetic intelligence, athleticism. They can just run really fast and nobody has to teach them perfect form. They just get it. I'm looking for those people that have that genius and emotional intelligence, because to me, that's the one that sets people apart. That's how I feel like you end up being successful is, you know, through empathy and through different things that allow you to walk a mile in someone else's shoes. And then the other thing I'm a big follower of is Stoicism. It's come into vogue in all of this, you know, COVID stuff, but I'm a huge Tim Ferriss fan. I read the 4-Hour Work Week a long time ago, 4-Hour Body, 4-Hour Chef. I follow him. I get the his Friday, I think he calls it the 5-Bullet Friday. I've been getting those for a long time. And I recommend anyone out there, if you're into personal development, Tim Ferriss is the guy. So anyway, Tim Ferriss is the one that introduced me in a meaningful way in my practice of business and to the Stoics. But, you know, we've all read Marcus Aurelius in college, and, you know, but when you really start looking at some of the greatest minds that have been operating historically, they were all into the Stoics. And it really, what it allows you to do is just separate yourself emotionally from what's happening to just looking at things as, this isn't happening to me. This is just information. It is what it is. And what is the solution? And how do you deal with this person on the other end of you who's a big ball of emotion typically when something's not going right? And in cannabis, that's all the time, you know? So these are the tools that I use to keep Bhang going forward.
No, and you know what? You're doing an excellent job at the helm of Bhang. We're at the top of the hour here. We've got about 15 more minutes. There's a couple of more things I wanted to ask you about, and then we'll hopefully have some time for a Q&A with the audience members. Okay. You talked about Cypress Hill. I'm sorry. Well, I should say DJ Muggs being your cousin originally, coming into Bhang as a marketing chief strategist. What are some of the other, or are there any other celebrities, influencers, athletes that are aligned with Bhang? And are you guys talking to any that you haven't announced?
You know, this is one of the things I hate about being a publicly traded company is I have this kind of a gag order on me all the time about what we're forward-looking statements and all these things that we're doing. But fortunately, the one I'm about to talk about has already, he let the cat out of the bag. So I can tell you that we're really, really, really good friends with Jim Belushi.
Okay, nice.
And yeah, so I think here, I'll show you in this magazine right here, I have it earmarked because what Jim did right there in print is he talked about what cannabis does he use. And he said every night he takes 2.5 milligrams of Bhang chocolate to sleep. And so I just love that. You know, I met Jim a while back. His CEO is a friend of mine, and so anyway, he's somebody that I would love to do something with. You know, but we're in right now. We just like each other a lot, and we'll see what happens. I respect him so much because his story is also authentic, and that's what's important to me. Yeah, is that we're working with people who aren't out there just trying to do a big money grab, but they really are passionate about the plant, what it can do for people. The other one that I want to talk about is Happy Monkey, because I saw the CSE guys
Do a
do
podcast with them.
Vlad's
I met Vlad
podcast.
at the
Yeah.
MJ Biz in Vegas as well.
Oh yeah,
I
the
like
Happy
those
Monkey.
guys.
I was there for sure.
So you guys are doing something with Happy Monkey, or is that what you're?
We were looking at maybe putting our CBD products into their CBD. They have a CBD yoga thing that they used to do every Sunday.
Okay.
And we were in talks to do that. And, you know, COVID's kind of screwed everything up for everybody. So, you know, anything I can do for the Happy Monkey guys, Vlad and Ramon, I consider friends.
Yeah.
And, you know, Vlad just had a great article come out about him in Forbes. And, you know, those guys really deserve a lot of kudos because they are the nexus between culture and corporate. And I think I was just talking to a guy from Massachusetts, and we were talking about how there are a few of us in the world that consider ourselves the bridge between corporate and culture. And I think Vlad and Ramon represent a bridge between corporate and culture. I think Bang is one of those because we do have, obviously we went public, we have this corporate element to us, but we're all cannabis people. Like I grew up in the industry. I was a basketball player. I played college basketball. I played on the USA team. I was not using drugs of any kind, you know, growing up, but had it all around me. I know that everybody on my team, you know, we're cannabis people, you know.
There's so much that we're finding out about you today. We're going to have to get you on another podcast. I keep looking at the time. I was like, wow, we can pick your brain forever on just general topics, culture, and just the community that you guys have built. So, okay, we
the
went
one thing I want to tell people right now before I don't have the chance is the 30-year fixed interest rate on owner-occupied residences just hit 2.75% in the United States. I'm like, holy crap. I've never seen it that low. Has anybody on a 30-year fix? I've never seen it that low. But anyway.
Well, there you go. Not just cannabis talk, but real estate tips from Jamie Pearson as well.
Yeah.
I want to, speaking of the Happy Monkey guys, we'll give them a quick shout out to Vlad, Ramon, and the Happy Monkey team.
I see Shrek just joined. Hi, Shrek. I haven't seen you. That's been years.
I'm going to ask you a quick question. Like, you know, you guys have a big focus in the States. We've been asking all of our execs about this. Banking versus legalization. What would be your dream when it comes to that?
God, that's tough. If I could have one or the other, it would be legalization, no question, because banking comes with that, right? I'd love to have banking. We actually have banking. We're blessed.
Yeah.
You know, we've got banking. We've got great bank partners right now. So I feel like I can't complain about it. What I will tell you is that there's a whole bunch of hoops you got to jump through. It's just not a simple process, but there's a lot of companies out there that have to pay us in cash because they don't have banking.
They don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's good insight. I noticed on your site,
on your social media.
I'm just
seeing people that are joining.
No, that's perfect. You caught me off guard there. I wanted to talk a little bit about, you guys have a contest going on social media, Baked with Bang.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Can you talk to our audience about that and what you guys are doing?
What came out of it is we were starting to look at what was going on TikTok, and we saw that a whole bunch of people were, you know, they're stuck at home and they were baking, not just cannabis baking. They were just baking. There was just this big, nobody could get flour. You can't get toilet paper. You couldn't get flour. We're like, what the heck's going on? So we just had a conversation. We're like, we should do a Baked with Bang because they're at home. And this is a great opportunity for us. We had just shot a bunch of video with Scott, where Scott was actually making recipes with Bang chocolate. And so if you go on our YouTube channel, Scott, he made a grilled cheese with an iron for kids.
I saw that video.
They're in dorm rooms and they don't have kitchens because, you know, he's a chef and, you know, he's a creative
you
guy.
Improvise.
Totally. And so anyway, he did some, and the recipes are amazing, by the way, the ones that Scott came up with. But then we thought, well, why not just offer up, if all these people are at home and they're baking, why not have them bake with our chocolate and then share their recipes with the world, and we'll just make it fun. And then we did, the first one we did was so popular and we got flooded with recipes that we decided we're just going to do it again. And so we gave all them their money, and now we moved on to the next ones.
It's sort of like what we're doing with Cannabis Week. I mean, we're not giving away cash or anything like that. It's we're talking about cannabis, and it's been a great response from everybody. So people can follow you guys on social media and find out more about this contest and everything else you guys are doing. Jamie, why don't you tell our audience where they can find more details, not just about yourself, but Bhang in general and some of the stuff you guys are doing. We've got about 5 minutes or so, and I'll let you go ahead with whatever message you wanna talk to the audience about.
Sure. BhangNation.com is our website, and that's the THC site. And then we have BhangCBD.com, where you can buy all of our products on the CBD side. So, we've got all kinds of great Bhang chocolate, dark milk, and that can be shipped all I think 47 states. I think there's a few weird ones out there that aren't having it, but so Bhang Nation tells you like everything about all of our products on the THC side of things, where you can find them, and
we seem to have cut.
I should have done do not disturb. I don't know why I didn't think of that.
It's okay, we've got you back.
Anyway, on the investor site, you can see that we've got an investor deck there. We're traded on the CSE, of course, at BHNG. We're also on the OTC at BHNGF for foreign. And so Bhang Nation on Instagram, we're bhang.chocolate. We're on Twitter, we're on YouTube, and you can find us everywhere.
Jamie, I really appreciate your time. Looks like we actually almost getting to the hour here, so it's obviously a great conversation. There was a lot of stuff that I still want to that we could still talk about and get into. So maybe what we can do is hopefully when you have some time, we can do a #finance podcast. It's a much longer format, and we can get a lot of these topics and talk about them a lot more in detail. But we truly appreciate your time. During this isolation period, work from home, obviously you guys are still succeeding at what you do. Look forward to not only the partnerships you guys are coming up with, the new flavors, new brands, new packaging, all that good stuff. So I truly do appreciate you. There is a quick question that has come in here, and I'll go through that, just a quick one, just make sure we don't miss it. The question itself is more of a comment, and it's from Barrington. He says he wants your reading list, your book reading list first. And he says you guys should make a cookbook, the Bhang book.
The Bhang book. Okay. Tell Barrington I'll take that under advisement.
He's listening. He's listening. Okay. He's got his ears perked up and he's listening.
The truth is that we've tossed it around. We've tossed it around with a couple of the notable cannabis chefs. And it's not something that we haven't already thought of. Definitely something we're thinking about.
Well, hey, I truly look forward to when we can talk to you again. Best wishes. Stay safe, healthy, happy during these times. And again, we appreciate everything you do for the cannabis industry.
Thank you for having me. Say hi to your whole CSE team.
And
everybody that's out there listening, stay safe and, take care. Thank you.
Thank you again, Jamie. Thanks, Nicole, for setting this up.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.